Hi guys, my name is Sutapa and today we're going to be discussing a chapter from our book of World Geography class 12, that is Transport and Communication, right? So in this chapter what we do is we discuss the various forms of transportation, the various, like we technically call it, the various modes of transportation, why one is better than the other, and in each in each mode of transportation or in each form of transportation we discuss their important features, the more prominent established transportation networks that exist in the world. These are the things that we talk about, right? So basically हम ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को डिटेल में पढ़ेंगे कि ट्रांसपोर्टेशन क्यों है, इसकी हमें क्या जरूरत है, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कैसे फॉर्म्स में आता है या उसके क्या क्या तरीके हो सकते हैं, और जो है ट्रांसपोर्टेशन से हमें कितना हेल्प मिला है आज तक, whatever we have achieved, whatever extensive forms of trade we have because of developed transportation and communication networks. So these are the things that we're going to be looking at today in this chapter. So the first topic that we start with is why do we need transportation and communication. मतलब जो ये हम पढ़ रहे हैं ट्रांसपोर्टेशन के बारे में, what is the relevance of something like this in a discipline like geography? Why are we bothering to study it at the first place? Well, what happens is, हमें पता है कि in geography we study about spatial variations, and we study about the various regions and the difference that exists in the various regions of the world. And so that's what we study, and here this is in our book World Geography. So again we are going to be studying this from the perspective of the world, right? So we're not going to be discussing anything that's happening in our country, or we're not looking at things from the perspective of our country. We're looking at things from an international perspective, from we're considering the world as a whole and seeing how much this thing is important in the world and how well it has worked out for people all over the world, right? So the relevance of transportation and communication in the modern day world and in our studies is that transportation provides a sort of link, a sort of connection or connectivity, right? So अगर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन नहीं होती है किसी कंट्री में, या लेट्स से किसी कंट्री के किसी बहुत ही रिमोट से रीजन में, राइट, किसी रिमोट से विलेज से एरिया में, so that area, basically what happens is it gets neglected from all the development process that is happening maybe in other places of the same country, and it lags behind in development terms, in economic terms, in terms of modernization, industrialization, everything. So transportation is something that the basic feature of transportation and communication is that it provides connectivity, right? So it connects people, and it connects regions, and it connects various sorts of economic activities, right? So we're going to be looking at this in a little more detailed way, and I have put them in points, the reasons why we need transportation and communication for development to happen, or for modernization to come about, why we need transportation and communication in a region or a country. Now the first thing is it provides us links. Now so this is basically what I meant by connectivity. It provides a sort of connectivity which is what enables development and modernization to take place and to spread, right? Because otherwise the region which lacks transportation and communication is always going to remain ignored and neglected, because it'll get segregated and separated from the areas which do have transportation and which have developed in economic terms or in industrial terms, whatever. So but here let us say कि हम ट्रेड के पर्सपेक्टिव से अगर बात करें तो what happens is जहाँ पे चीजें बनाई जाती है, where the region where commercial activities occur, where manufacturing occurs, is not necessarily the region where these things are sold, right? So maybe you have an industry or a factory in a place where let's say you get lots of raw materials, right? अब मुझे पता है कि इस जगह पे मेरे को ये रॉ मटेरियल मिलेगा जो मेरे मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में मेरे को बहुत हेल्प करेगा, तो ऑब्वियसली मैं अपना इंडस्ट्री इसी जगह पे सेटअप करूं ताकि अगेन सो दैट आई कैन सेव माय ट्रांसपोर्टेशन कॉस्ट, so that I don't have to get this raw material transported to somewhere else where I might have built my factory. So I'm setting up a factory in this place. Now, whatever goods I'm manufacturing, fine, I'm doing really well in business. My entire this industrial activity works out really great, and I'm able to manufacture large quintals of products. But then जहाँ पे मेरा फैक्ट्री है, ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि वहीं के लोग मेरा सामान खरीदेंगे या मेरा सारा का सारा सामान वहीं पे बिक जाएगा. I might not have any demand in that place where I have my factory, right? तो अगर मुझे ये सामान जो मैंने बनाया है ये बेचना है, तो I need to look for a place where there is a demand for this product. मुझे ऐसा जगह ढूंढना पड़ेगा जहाँ पे मेरी इस प्रोडक्ट की जो मैंने बनाई है उसकी डिमांड हो सकती है, right? So now I have a factory which is close to the place where my raw material might be, but then again it's not close to where I might have a market demand. It's not close to where I might be able to sell this product to people in large numbers. So in order to cover up this distance between where I'm manufacturing my product and where I have a demand and I'm going to be able to sell it, this distance is basically what is covered by transportation and communication. When it's not present, when there is no developed transportation network, I'm not going to be able to, because I'll have to put up a factory where raw material is available, right? So that I don't have to transport my raw material to my factory, or I can set up the factory close to where I might have consumer centers, where I might be able to sell this to people. But then that place won't necessarily have raw material present for my product. So I'm again going to have to get the raw material transported to here. So at one point of time, I can only save one of the costs that I might have to occur, and in saving that I'm going to always have an opportunity cost in terms of transportation, right? So that's what. So transportation basically helps to cover up the distance between production centers and consumer centers. So that is what we learned that is the first point. So transportation and communication provides links between production centers, I'm writing it really short, and consumer centers, right? So basically this helps to bridge the gap between the supply side, so this is basically the supply side, and between the demand side, right? So because talking in realistic terms, एक product की demand कहाँ पे ज़्यादा हो सकती है? Let's just say, for example, let's say we need a place which is very populated, right? Which has really high demographics. तो मुझे पता है कि अगर मैं एक ऐसा रीजन चूज करती हूँ जहाँ पे बहुत सारे लोग रहते हैं, जो जगह बहुत डेंसली पॉपुलेटेड है, तो वहां पे अगर मैं अपना प्रोडक्ट बेचती हूँ तो मुझे ज्यादा पैसे आएंगे, बिकॉज ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग खरीदेंगे उसको, इन कंपैरिजन टू ऐसी जगह जहाँ की पॉपुलेशन बहुत ही स्पेस है और जहाँ पे ज्यादा लोग नहीं रहते, तो वहां पे मैं कितने ही लोगों को अपना प्रोडक्ट बेच पाऊंगी, राइट? सो आई नीड अ प्लेस विच इज डेंसली पॉपुलेटेड. But then in these in these densely populated regions, in places where there is a lot of residential areas, I can't necessarily just put up a factory over there, right? So where I can put up factory is where there is very sparse population and where raw material is available, and in places where so much of commercial activity is going on, I'm not going to be able to find raw material for my product. So that is where transportation comes in. That is where we need some way to bridge the gap between what I am able to manufacture and what I need to sell. So that is the first point. It provides a link between production centers and consumer centers, right? The second is that it facilitates trade. So trade is something that has a wide connotation, right? So trade, as we understand it, involves economic activities like production, consumption, exchange, distribution, right? So without the availability of transportation, we cannot necessarily carry out much trade, because so the first thing that we saw, production and consumption to happen simultaneously require some sort of transportation, right? Now again, then there is exchange, and then there is distribution, and all these things come under trade, and you cannot really carry out trade without carrying out without having a developed form of transportation, because you cannot do any international trade if you don't have, like, let's say if you don't have waterways, you cannot really be able to sell your product from the region other than where you are manufacturing it if you don't have a developed transportation network, right? So that is why, in order to be able to carry out trade, we need a transportation network, we need a communication network, right? So that's there. The second thing, it facilitates trade. The third thing, it enables exchange and distribution. Now the thing with trade is, एक जो हमने अभी एग्जाम्पल की बात की, जहाँ पे रॉ मटेरियल्स अवेलेबल हैं और जहाँ पे हम अपना फैक्ट्री सेटअप करते हैं, तो ज्योग्राफी में there is this one thing that you need to learn and you need to understand first. So what happens is, you cannot really equip every region with every sort of facility. मतलब एक so let's just say for example, एक ऐसा एरिया है जो wheat बहुत अच्छा ग्रो करता है, right? So now so this wheat has to be processed and turned into flour and this that, and so we've already seen that this requires a lot of transportation activity, right? But anyway, so let's just say कि there's this one place where there is a lot of cultivation of wheat, right? And that's one place. Then miles away from it, we have another chunk of land where people specialize in cultivation of cotton, right? So now with this place where wheat is cultivated, you cannot just walk up to these people and say that so we already have a lot of people who are cultivating wheat in this area, so I'm gonna ask some of you to cultivate cotton instead, right? And you cannot do the same thing with the other chunk of land with a few people. So what I basically mean is, there's this this place basically specializes in wheat cultivation, so that's what it does best, and that is what it should do. If it has the weather conditions and the soil which are more suited towards the cultivation of wheat and not cotton, then it should produce wheat. And simultaneously, if this other place has the weather conditions, the climate conditions and the soil type which is more suited to the cultivation of cotton, then it should produce cotton and not wheat, right? So every region, right, every region in a country or in whatever, society should do what it does best, should make the best use of its resources available and the technology available and the skills that it can harbor, right? So now this region is growing wheat as it does best, and this region is growing cotton as it can do best, right? तो फाइन, इनकी जगह पे ये वीट ग्रो कर रहे हैं क्योंकि सबसे अच्छा ये वीट ही कल्टीवेट कर सकते हैं. एक और जगह पे यहाँ पे कॉटन की कल्टीवेशन हो रही है जो कि बहुत अच्छी हो रही है, फाइन. But then at some point of time these people are going to need cotton as well. These people are going to need things made of cotton, like like clothes or like bed sheets, pillow covers, anything. So they cannot just live their entire life with wheat, right? So for for cotton to come to this place, or for things made of cotton to come to this place, there needs to be a network of transportation, right? And now these people who have been growing cotton for all this time, now they need to eat, right? So they need to they want to eat things made of wheat, or they want to use wheat and try and process it themselves and cook something out of it. So now for this wheat to come to this place, again there needs to be some sort of transportation network. So that is where this entire thing about exchange and distribution comes place. That is what we meant by facilitating trade. So now since these two since they are connected by a transportation network, that is why they can use the the products made in regions, in faraway regions. Otherwise, in the non-availability of transportation, these people who have been who are best equipped to grow wheat, so now they would have to use some people and some of their land to forcefully grow cotton, because now there is no transportation network. तो इनको पता है कि हाँ कहीं और पे कॉटन की कल्टीवेशन बहुत अच्छी होती है, पर हम उसको लाएंगे कैसे? हम वहां तक जाके इतने सारे किलोग्राम्स एंड इतने टन्स ऑफ कॉटन कैसे लाएंगे? उससे बेटर हम यहीं पे कर लें. Now this will lead to wastage of resources, and because this soil is not made for cotton cultivation, it's made for wheat cultivation. So that is why we say that you should always do things that you're best equipped with, things that you know best, and every place should every region in an economy should do what it does best, and that is how an economy can progress, right? So that is where the necessity of trade comes in. That is why trade is important, so that these people can sell their wheat, and the money that they get, they can buy things made of cotton, or they can purchase cotton itself, right? So otherwise they would have to end up growing it in their own farms forcefully. So that is what we meant by transportation facilitates trade, because when transportation is not there, we'd be cut off from areas which could have been important to us, areas which would provide us with important raw materials or finished goods, and we would end up in our own region trying to achieve self-sufficiency, doing everything all by ourselves, right? So that is why transportation is important. The second point here, it facilitates trade. The third thing is it enables exchange and distribution. Okay, so when we talked about so exchange and distribution is basically, we're talking about when there is mass production. So matlab suppose in whatever region, let's say in a area which is very rich with raw materials, So let's take our previous example, area which is very rich with raw materials. I open up a factory there, right? तो मैंने फैक्ट्री तो खोल ली, मुझे रॉ मटेरियल्स भी अबंडेंस में मिल रहे हैं. अब मुझे जो है मैंने सामान भी बना लिया, मैंने बहुत सारी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कर ली. अब ये जो मैंने मास प्रोडक्शन किया है इसको मुझे एक्सचेंज करना पड़ेगा, राइट, इन टर्म्स ऑफ मनी, because the barter system doesn't exist anymore. So whatever exchange happens, it happens in terms of money, and I'm going to be I'm going to need to distribute this. And when I'm making a mass production, like I am not sending my product to just one area, to just one region, right? So I'm standing here and I have, straight ahead of me I have this another region where I know I can sell my product. So I'm just not going to sell my product there. I'm going to send it to a lot of other places because I have produced, in massive quantities. So I'm going to make my product as, make it go as further as possible, right? So when there is this thing called mass production, right? So when there is this thing called mass production, I'm going to need to distribute this product of mine which I have produced in such massive quantities, and I'm going to need to distribute it in faraway regions. So now this again would not be possible without the availability of a developed transportation and communication network, right? So that was what our third point meant. Transportation also enables exchange and distribution. The fourth being, it facilitates cooperation and unity among scattered people. Okay, so now this is basically just a a socially relevant point. So when there are scattered groups of people living a bit far away from each other, like for example, let's just say so I and my family live here, and I have relatives who live in another state. Now if there would be no transportation network, अगर transportation नहीं होता तो मेरे लिए कभी पॉसिबल नहीं होता कि मैं अपने रिलेटिव्स के साथ मिल सकूं. But since there is there is a railway system and there is road networks and there are airways, it is possible for me to meet my relatives who might stay in in another state. In we might have a north south this distance between the two of us, but I'm still going to be able to meet my relatives because I have a developed transportation network that solves my purpose, right? So that is what it means by cooperation and unity among scattered people. So these are the reasons why we need a network of transportation and communication. The first being it provides links or connectivity basically between production centers and consumption centers. The second being it facilitates trade. The third being it enables exchange and distribution. The fourth is that it facilitates cooperation and unity among scattered people.